Reagan Jackson.
Hey Maggie, what's up?
How?
I'm doing wonderfully.
I love that. I love that. All right, so we are doing these little bite-sized follow-up interviews with folks because we originally recorded Hinton Cast a whole year ago, and we know that everyone we interviewed are just makers and shakers, and we just want to catch our audience up on what you all have been up to. So Reagan, what have you been up to for this past year?
Well, after 10 years of being with Young Women Empowered, I said my adieu. I graduated. So that's been amazing and a huge shift in my life, just to have held that work for so long. And, of course, I'm still going to be in community with everyone. That's not going to change. And I still love YW because it's amazing. But I'm basking in the freedom of just...
I love that.
Yeah, having some time and space to work on my writing, to breathe, to rest, to relax, to rest and repair as well.
To rest and repair. That reminds me of something else that you are up to right now, Reagan. Can you tell us more?
Basically, this is something that's been kind of coming up for me for a while now, given that we're in the middle of the apocalypse, right? Like everything is ending, including the empire formerly known as the United States of America. Our democracy is under attack. Our rights are being stripped left and right. And 92% of Black women, we tried to tell y'all this was not the way.
You did.
And so, like my fellow sisters, I'm desperately in need of some rest and repair. So to that end, I came up with the idea of creating a cohort of other Black women to come together to focus on rest. And it's something that I'd like to facilitate. And my hope is to do that in fall of 2025. But before I do, I have to first rest.
Yeah.
So I am beta testing rest as a concept.
Love it.
I am actually doing the opposite of everything I've been doing for years and years and years. I am not grinding. I am not engaging in stress. I am not actually currently engaging in physical protest. I might do a couple passive things, in terms of where I put my income or things like that, but you're not going to see me out in the street, which is, it's a significant choice for me to be making. And especially in this moment where I do feel the urgency around it, but also it's been urgent. It's going to continue to be urgent. Urgency is not going anywhere. But what's really urgent is my health, my mental health, my physical health, my wellness. I'm realizing that I'm detoxing from cortisol and that the stress hormones that have been a prevalent part of my life. So I have to learn how to live in a different way and at a different pace. But if folks are interested in supporting the rest and repair, the idea is to support 12 other tired Black women who live in the Washington state or probably in the Seattle area.
Yeah.
To also make this decision to choose to prioritize rest. So it would be a retreat at the Whitby Institute that I would be hosting, which would include some support from my wellness squad, both in terms of a joy coaching session or a massage or acupuncture. There's all these different modalities that we can explore to help us get what we need. But then the cohort would last total for 7 months, so that, when you're trying to make a change, it's not necessarily something that's going to happen immediately. One retreat may not be enough to shift somebody's outlook, but it can be a great catalyst. And then having that added in a once a month sister circle, connecting, caring, accountability system.
Yes.
I think that's the way forward. So folks, we've got a GoFundMe. It's live. By all means, feel free to donate.
Click
Multiple times if you feel like it.
Enter your payment information. Yes. No, so I told you before we started recording that I was going to ask you some ignorant questions, but you, of course, fully outlined everything of I was going to be but Reagan, it's this time of urgency. And you got it. So instead, I'm going to just talk a little bit about why I think your idea is so important. We're both youth workers. And one of the things that I tried really hard to work into my youth leadership programs is having self-care be something that we actively talked about and that we tried to actively make plans about, because I think that, it starts when you're young. You have seen it. You're a youth worker. There's these kids who are on every single extracurricular activity. They are doing every honors class. They are doing every sport. And then they're doing this enrichment leadership program on top of it.
And they have a
And so, you start grinding when you are like 13. It feels like a lot of times, especially if you are an overachiever, especially if your family expects you to be an overachiever, and that can stay with you for the rest of your life. And, like, self-care has become this like really like, it's like, oh, I'll spend money on myself, or like, oh, I'll take a bubble bath. Like that could be self-care if like do what works for you, but being able to rest, being able to relax, being able to allow your nervous system to rest, to not constantly be in a state of stress. These are all things that we need. These are all things like if we're being productive, if like saving the world, et cetera, are things that I think these times are calling upon us to do. And, as you pointed out, Black women are the ones who have been we gotta fix society. We gotta make it a place that Black women can survive in, that Black families can survive in. And if we can make sure that we live in a society that Black families survive in, then every family will be able to survive, right? Because yada, yada. Like, I'm not going to explain institutional and historical racism in this moment, and if you can't rest, if you can't relax, you're going to burn out. You're not going to be able to keep doing it. And I think please. Sorry.
A couple of things I want to say to that.
Please.
One, the ways in which resilience and being a strong Black woman has been like codified as like it's like part of our mantra or part of who we're supposed to be, but it doesn't allow for softness. It doesn't allow for disconnect or for us to even think about, why are we doing this? Is this in service of capitalism, or is this in service of our communities? And if it is, okay, so we're doing this because our communities are perishing under capitalism, and that's not a system that we had a hand in creating. Like, it just feels like we didn't break it, but yet we have to fix it. It's a lot. It's doing a lot.
It is a lot. I feel like something that I feel a lot of pressure is that I really need to put myself last all of the time. Like, it's so important for me to put everyone else first. And I feel like the intersection of gender that I'm talking about in race, I imagine that that's even more magnified for Black women.
Oh yeah, that's how we're socialized. Everybody eats before you. You spend hours cooking the meal, but then you're the last to eat if you get anything at all. And so definitely I know a lot of people will hear me and be like, you're so selfish. Wow. That's a really selfish choice. And the truth is, that's right. I am choosing myself. I love myself. I love and respect myself. And this is another way that I can do that. And I can model that for the young people that we work with as well.
Yes.
I'm feeling really good about that. I also can't say enough about the role of joy in these movements of resistance. Like, we talk about resilience, we talk about struggle, but we don't talk about like, what are we struggling for? Like, I'm not fighting so that then I can have a miserable existence in the same way that like, I don't feel like my ancestors did everything that they could to put me in a position to thrive so that then I can be sad and miserable and struggle some more. Like, no, at a certain point, like, joy needs to be happening. Joy needs to be infused into our daily practices so that we are accustomed and know how to live joyfully, and not just knowing how to live like in struggle and perpetual angst.
Yes. Reagan! Oh my gosh. So I was about to be like, you should have a podcast. You have a podcast, The Deep End.
I do, but we've been on hiatus for a long time.
Okay.
I've been trying to get Anastasia to like commit to this next season, and it's possible.
Okay. Because I just know when I get the opportunity to talk to you and I get the opportunity to listen, I'm just like, yes, correct. This makes me so happy. Yeah, like, we're in this moment where we're dealing with a lot of repression, right? And oppression is really painful to go through. It's deeply dehumanizing. It's traumatizing. And so it can be easy to get lost in the, like, okay, we have to, like, I can feel a lot of pressure to be like, all right, I got to get out there, got to get tear gas, got to get in the way, got to do all these things. And I'm not saying don't do those things. Certainly I'm not saying that to people like me, but I am saying that, like, there needs to be another side to that, right? Like, it can't all be, you can't just be dealing with trauma over and over again. You can't just be like hurting yourself and depriving yourself of things that you love, because that's another way that you'll burn out. And also, like, I love what you said about, like, if we don't have joy as part of our practice, as part of our, our daily, weekly routines, what happens at the other side, right? Like, if we get to the other side and we like defeat this current repression, we won't know how to be joyful. Oh, Reagan! I just, I
Well,
can't.
have you watched The Old Guard or The Old Guard 2? It just came out on Netflix.
So I both watched and read The Old Guard 1. I haven't seen The Old Guard 2 yet.
Okay, I just watched the second one. And what came up for me is this concept of these people who are immortal, right? Like they're more or less immortal and they spend their lives like fighting the good fight in different places. Yeah. And the thing that kind of came up for me is like as I was zooming out, I was thinking about the ways in which us living in a militaristic culture influences even our art and how we perceive things. And like the thing that came up for me is like if I were immortal, would I want to spend an immortality like in somebody's war or like, you know, learning combat and like, you know, just I mean, sure, maybe it's exciting, and if you can't die, like you're, you know, like maybe you're thriving off of that stress or whatever. But I'm like, I don't know, what if you spent your immortality reading or learning different languages or instruments or forging peace or making pottery, or I mean, like there's so many different choices, but I feel like our culture steers us into these very specific harmful choices. Thinking about that, like when I used to go recruit young people to participate in our programs, and if I went into schools, I'd ask them like, you know, how many of you identify as leaders? And then maybe like 2 or 3 would raise their hands, or you know, 5 at the most in any given room, and usually like out of the 5, maybe 1 girl or non-binary person. And I would ask the entire class though, okay, so how long have you been in school? Like 10, 11, 12 years. And none of you identify as leaders. What are you being taught? Like, what are you prepared, like, what if you're not prepared to lead, are you prepared to follow? What are you following? Do you have any agency over that? Are you making a choice to follow? Or is this just something that you're being put into? And like this is one of the reasons too, I always had a lot of difficulty being a classroom teacher. Or working within traditional frameworks of education. Is not because I don't love youth or because I don't love education, but because I do. And because I want our education to be used in service of liberation and to support our young people to imagine vibrant and thriving new ways of being. And so for me, it's kind of like you can't work with young people telling them every day, like, follow your dreams, follow your passions, follow your whatever, and then not start to listen. And I feel like this is a year that I really listen deeply to the ways in which I've been, this message that's been pouring through me. Then I received it and was like, oh, the one thing that I've always known about myself is that I'm a writer, and I love it. And I love being in creative community, and I love like just being in that creative process. So in addition to resting and repairing, I'll be writing. That's my other thing I'll be doing.
Amazing. No, oh my gosh. So to respond to sort of the first thing you were talking about, I'm going to go on a very short tangent, which is in the graphic novel The Old Guard, you really just feel how exhausted they are. Like the thing about these immortals is it's not they can't be killed. So they're kind of they're trapped being alive. And they're just like, especially the oldest one, the character that Charlize Theron plays in the movie, she is exhausted. She's so done. She's so ready to be done.
Just watching her opening sequence.
I know. Sorry, no, I'm going to pull us back. I was going to talk about how good she is at fight choreography, but we're pulling back. I think the ways that we have learned to deal with each other, especially how we deal with each, like, and I think it's macro and micro, is it's about domination. It's about winning. It's about warfare, battle, fights. Everything's a fight. And I just think that we do that because like we were taught that by people who were not healed. I don't care what the problem that you're looking at is, if it's like inner city violence or I'm trying to think of the most responsible way to, like, or, you know, radical far right extremism here or in the Middle East. I think, you know, and like, I think what we need to be doing is stop thinking about like fighting and dominating and using like our might to control other people. And I think we need to start thinking about, okay, so if we were to support and uplift and create spaces for folks to rest, for folks to achieve their goals, for folks to be able to, you know, have their basic material needs met and then be able to figure out what they want to do with their lives beyond just survive, I think that would solve the problems, right? But we never approach it that way.
Basic income.
Yeah.
UBI, Universal Basic Income. If y'all aren't up on it, look it up. It is a concept. People have thought this thought and have actually like are trying to mobilize to get something like that in place, because not because, oh, socialism or, communism or anything like that. Although, like, we say that like it's a dirty word. That's how we've been taught, that
Absolutely.
That's terrible. And I'm like, every system has its problems.
Of course.
But yeah, like, actually, Nafasi Farrell, she's on the faculty of trauma of money.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and that's something too, if folks that are interested in really doing a deep dive, not just in their own financial planning, but in their attitudes towards money and what they like learned growing up, and how that relates to, their relationship to money. Trauma of money is something that I highly recommend, but she also does a lot of work around universal basic income, and is thinking of ways to kind of pilot what that could be.
Yes. No, I think there's something about the puritanical foundations of this country where you like, there's really this belief system that like you have to suffer to survive, right? Like if you have to suffer to get the means of like material, like, like get your material needs met. And
well, some people have to suffer.
Yeah. Well, yes. But like,
true about that.
True. Like if you already like, the assumption is that if you already have it, right? Like if you already have the money, then you are worthy. And like, obviously there are intersections around race and class. I want to be very clear. But if you don't have the money, then you need to suffer to get better, right? Like we love to tell these stories of exceptionalism, right? Like we spend a lot of time, we spend a lot of time talking about like, oh wow, look at this person, they invented something, or they got a scholarship and they are not in this position anymore. I just cannot, so everybody has to be either exceptional or suffer to get any level of help. And if we could just reimagine what we mean to each other and what we owe, maybe not even owe, but like the radical importance of care for one another, interdependency, if everybody could just have enough, right? Like a universal basic income, it's not that everyone's going to become a millionaire, it's that everybody will be able to have a place to live, have nutritional food, be able to turn on the heat in the winter, turn on, the heat pump in the summer.
Yep.
What would people...
And that makes sense. Also, where the food isn't toxic and
exactly.
Well, like nutritious, nourishing things. Like
exactly.
There's a different way.
That would transform society.
Absolutely.
Constantly traumatizing people because they do not have the means to survive and they are forced to make very bad choices. It's just self-perpetuating. If we could invest in universal basic income, if we could, instead of constantly invading and occupying spaces, what if we were instead like helping build infrastructure and funding education, funding agriculture, funding, new programs in all of these countries that we're scared of. Like we could have peace, within our lifetime. Like we could have peace within a decade. Like what is happening?
I mean, I think part of it is, we're being kept tired and fighting and angry. And that's all a distraction from this bigger vision of what peace could be like, because peace is not profitable. It's really profitable? War. Sell 1 million planes, sell 1 million guns, sell 1 million whatever. Like, oh yeah, somebody's making money on that. But also, like, it's so short-sighted, because when you think about like the truth of profit, if we're really like get down to redefining that as thriving, as, kind of, I'm thinking about, there's a book once I read called The Geography of Happiness. It was like an NPR book thing.
Okay.
And they talked about, I think it's Bhutan is where their national product is happiness.
What?
I feel like that's how they measure like the success of their countries, if people are like happy and well. And like it's a very different framework.
Yes.
In terms of what our metrics of success are. And I think it would create a different level of accountability around all these things that you were talking about. Like, because I feel like in this moment, we're not accountable to one another for even basic care.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
Absolutely. I love that word, accountability, right? Like the ways that you become absurdly rich are by exploiting the land, exploiting the environment, and exploiting people. And it's just wild to me. It is more important to us societally. It's more important to us in this country, in this imperial structure that has been set up for centuries, for a very small group of mostly men, mostly white men, to be able to continue to add zeros in a computer than it is to have a livable planet. Make sure that everybody is paid enough that they can live in dignity. Like, what? Like, it really feels like a mental illness. Like, capitalism, racism, colonialism, imperialism, it just feels like we just have to detach from reality and uphold, I don't know, 10 people? For what? Like, none of that is going to, like, when we no longer have a livable planet, no one's going to care how much money you have. It's not going to do you any good.
Nope.
All right, let's switch topics. Sorry, I get so heated. I just, I was really blessed to grow up on a livable planet, and it just breaks my heart that I'm not able to pass that down to, my baby cousins and my friends' kids. I worry about what the future holds for the young people I've worked with. So yeah, it's really important to create spaces for us to be able to also relax. I appreciate that. All right. Maybe a good transition would be, what are some good books that people can read when they get revved up like we are? What are some good books? And I know you and I both have a soft spot for YA, so I encourage that, to talk about the things that are going on right now and help us kind of like reconfigure our brain and how we can approach our work.
Ooh, okay. Some books that are like on my shelf that I'm either in the middle of reading or just finished reading. Of course, Rest is Resistance, Trisha Hershey, nonfiction, but it's a really beautiful meditation. And I'm also finding Black liturgies is something that I've been like really leaning on.
Cool. Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about Black liturgies lately.
It's very beautiful. And it's kind of a balm to the spirit. Another book that I found to be a balm to the spirit was Undrowned by Alexis Pauline Gumbs.
Cool.
And it's like these intersections between marine life and sea life and animals and Black feminism in a really like unconventional and groundbreaking way. And she just also wrote a biography of Audre Lorde that I hear is really good, but I haven't gotten to that yet.
That's awesome.
And then yesterday at Third Place Books in Lake Forest Park, I went to the book launch of Positive Obsession, which is the biography of Octavia Butler.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I really loved everything that they had to say. But what kind of came up to me about it was, I feel like in so many ways we put Octavia Butler like on a pedestal because she's such an incredible sci-fi writer and just like an incredible thought leader. And someone who seemed almost, prescient, like she had, like, she's the Nostradamus,
Yeah.
But the way they talked about it was more that it's not so much that she could see the future, it's that she studied the past and she studied how empires worked and how, and then just kind of saw the writing on the wall and wrote accordingly. And to me, there's something really valuable to that.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I think nonfiction is a really great place to go when we're in these times. People who have studied history, people who have studied society can give us a lot of input. I just finished reading Turlemaine's Marsha biography. It's about Marsha P. Johnson. I am currently working on my first sort of embroidery project. I'm taking an embroidery class, and I'm doing a portrait of Marsha P. Johnson because it's so moved and inspired that she was someone who was so focused on community care and also really able to see the importance of liberatory politics and do both of those things at once. And, just such a great example. Like right now, the right is really obsessed with being like, oh my gosh, transgenderism, it's only existed for the past 10 years. It's like, absolutely not. It's only in European cultures that we pretend like there are two genders. Most different cultures around the world had an understanding that didn't have an understanding of a binary. There were multiple roles for people to play outside of man and woman. Yeah, I really love that. I always kind of return to the Hunger Games series. I just finished Sunrise on the Reaping, and man, she knows how to make me feel every feeling. I think she does such a good job of taking, sort of a sci-fi dystopian lens and, using that to talk about what we're dealing with culturally right now.
What was that other one? Ballad of Snakes and...
Yeah, Songbirds and Snakes.
Songbirds. It was Gritty. I really like that too.
Yes, yes. No, I loved how it both fully humanized Snow, but also did not let him off the hook, right?
No, still problematic.
That is a tricky like needle to thread, right? Like but there's room for both. Like when we're talking about people who cause harm in, in community, in society, they're usually causing harm because of, their childhood trauma, right? Like they're usually causing harm because they were harmed themselves. Even like some of the worst people we can think of right now and throughout history, it's like, if there had been meaningful interventions when they were young people, I don't think we would have to be, dealing with their monstrous behavior now. And still, that's not an excuse, right? Like, I think that being able to hold both of those things as true is it's like you're a person, you're not a monster, and you're responsible for the things that you did. Like that is a sweet spot of restorative practices and philosophies. A side project that we're doing here at Hinton is this podcast called Little Sibs, and one of the deep dives that we're doing on Little Sibs is thinking about transformative justice, restorative justice, and like what do you do in community when harm has been caused. So a book that has been put on my reading list because of that I have not yet started, but I'm really excited about is Fumbling Towards Repair. It's a workbook for community accountability and facilitators.
Ooh.
Right? And so that is something that I'm really excited about. And I feel like that can be sort of a piece of where I fit into movement work, especially as someone who is now a little bit older than a lot of the people who are, I think movements require youth and the optimism of youth. And a necessary byproduct of youth is a lot of conflict, right? And a lot of I know for me, when I was young, I was right? Like I was right. And if you disagreed with me, you were wrong. And that was problematic. And I didn't want to deal with you. And I'm hoping that a space that like we can start to build as folks who are in community with young people is help facilitate conflict. Because sometimes people really need to be called in, right? Sometimes people really need to deconstruct their internalized racism, transphobia, ableism. And sometimes people are not communicating well. Like sometimes people are disagreeing about things that are more subjective. Yeah, if we can figure out a way to be able to build movements along commonalities and spend a little bit less time obsessing over our differences, again, in like in places where it's not problematic or, repressive to do so, I think that's how we get to the other side of these difficult times.
Yeah. Fiction wise, I just finished reading Something Like Right by H.D. Hunter. That's a great YA novel that is also kind of a second chance novel about this kid who, he makes a pretty big mistake and ends up kind of getting sent away, gets expelled from his school and then has to go live with his aunt and uncle. And so it's kind of the question of like, how do you rebuild from there? And fun fact, H.D. Hunter was he was my 10th house YA instructor.
Wow.
So accepted to go to this 5-day workshop, and there were 4 incredible instructors. So it was H.D. Hunter, Aiden Thomas, who obviously we love.
Friend of the pod, we love.
Michelle Ruiz Kill, and Johnny Villagarza. And so I've been just kind of like, all of them have incredible YA books out. So I'm just like one by one going through them. So I actually just read also Canto Canto by Johnny Garza, and that was incredible. And just like a complete aside, but it's about two competing mariachi lead singers.
What? I want that.
They're both male. One is like a trans male and the other is cis male, but they kind of hooked up before the start of the book, and then one of them ends up getting transferred to the other school where the other one is the lead singer of their mariachi group and comes in like being like, no, like it's me, like I'm the lead, I'm gonna be the lead, I'm the best. So they
I love that. That. No, I need to invest more time and energy into getting to know Eastern Washington, in part because like there's such large immigrant communities in Eastern Washington to the point that like most Eastern Washington high schools have mariachi bands. There are like mariachi band competitions in Eastern Washington. I'm like, what am I doing? Why aren't I going out there?
I'd never heard of this. Well, it's because this one is based in Texas.
Yes.
But yeah, like it didn't occur to me that there was competitive mariachi high school bands. Like I just had
right.
that. So I
Right.
love a
And
YA
that,
novel when I'm like, I don't even know, you're educating me. Like, teach me what this is.
yes. No, I love that. I love that.
Hmm.
That is one of my favorite things. To stay on the current of talking about Tin House, one of the things that I would love for you to be able to talk to Hinton Cast listeners about is what are different residencies that you have done? What are different like literary programs that what you have done? Like what are things that people should be looking for when they have the story and they just kind of maybe need that little extra bit of support to actually get it written or fine tune it or sell it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first I want to back up and talk about residencies as a concept because
Please.
what I'm learning is my friends who are not writers are like, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So a writing residency, and this can be done in multiple ways, right? You can do your own residency if you're a person who knows that you just need time and space. That's all you need. You can
Yeah.
rent an Airbnb, go someplace. That's your residency. That's great. If you're a person who wants a little more structure or wants to be in community with other writers or artists, there are residencies that you can apply for, some of which you might have to pay for, and some of which will pay you to go on the experience. So, of course, I'm always on the plan, you pay me to come and write, because that's
Yeah.
like my joy. Like, I would love to do that.
Yeah.
So to that end, I've received 3 paid residencies so far. One is Bloedel Reserve. Shout out to Bloedel. That's located on Bainbridge Island. That one was kind of a tricky one. Like I kind of got in through the back door. My friend Anastasia, who's
Yeah. Yeah.
my podcasting partner, she was the one who officially got the residency. But then due to circumstances, she was not able to take all of the time and negotiated. And this is a thing to think of too, is like what a pay it forward or, moment.
Yeah.
She negotiated for me to be able to take a week of her residency.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah. And especially because I feel like I'd been applying and been applying and been applying and not getting residencies and just really felt desperate for the time. And so this was like such a gift.
Amazing.
And it's this beautiful, like 2-bedroom cabin with floor to ceiling windows out on the Bloedel Reserve on Bainbridge Island. And it was just one of the most magical experiences I've ever had.
Wow.
After that, Jane Hodges with the Mineral School gifted me with a week at Mineral School, which was fantastic. It's like a haunted school in Mineral, Washington, kind of at the base of Mount Rainier.
Wow.
I definitely every time I go, I bring gifts for the ghost so that they leave me alone because I'm
I
like,
love that.
right, I'm not trying to hang out with ghosts.
What do ghosts want as gifts?
Oh, cake.
Cake. Okay, great. I can do that.
Yep. Everybody loves my cake.
Beautiful. Okay, great. Great. So, cake, good way to not be haunted.
Absolutely.
But you had a good experience there despite having to bribe ghosts with sugar.
I had a wonderful experience. I had been working on this novel for like 5 years, and I had the opportunity to go and completely restructure the novel. And then that gave me kind of the momentum and the motivation to finish that draft. And so I did finally, I'd say maybe 3 months after that residency, I was able to finish the draft of this novel that I just finished another draft of.
Yeah.
Women's International Study Center in Santa Fe, New Mexico was the other one that I got. And they gifted me with a whole month of time. So 2 weeks.
Wow.
In December. So I went in the winter. And then I did another 2 weeks in August. And that was for working on the book about Why We, which I did complete a draft of before I left. So
yeah,
we'll see what they choose to do with that. But it's done. I did my part.
You sure did.
But yeah, so coming up as I'm exiting this long time job, like I said, I'm prioritizing rest. I'm really just trying to slow down and just sit. But that being said, I've also been gifted about 2.5 months worth of residencies coming up. So I just did.
That's awesome.
Yeah, do it yourself one, and at what we call Dinner Island on Friday Harbor.
Oh, cool.
With some of my other friends. And then at the end of the month, I'll be headed to Jamaica for Easton's Nook. So that is one that you pay to go to that one, but it's run by 2 Black women who have a house in New Jersey where they offer radical hospitality to Black academics.
Wow.
And so my mom actually had gotten a residency with them when she was working on her last book. And then they piloted this program in Negril, Jamaica. So we're going to Jamaica.
Amazing.
My grandmother was a writer, and she left behind a lot of her essays and articles and whatnot.
Wow.
So we're taking all of that with the hope of putting together the book proposal for her memoir, which
That's
will also
beautiful.
be the story of Black Iowa, because a lot of folks don't know, like there's a thriving community of Black folks who live in Iowa. I was
Yeah.
born in Des Moines. My mom, my grandma, my great grandma, my great great grandma, and my great 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 grandma are all from Des Moines, Iowa.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. That is such a beautiful legacy. And I love that you and your mom are working on that together. I mean, that tracks for the people that I know you both to be, but I'm really excited for that. Okay.
I'm really excited. Oh, but there's
Yeah.
two more.
Yes, yes, yes. Please tell us about them all.
So in September, this was fantastic news. I'm going to have the opportunity to do Tin House again. So I went
Yes.
to Tin House for their spring young adult fiction writers workshop. And that was a different thing than a residency. Like it was an actual, like you bring 6,000 words of your novel, you're put in a group with like 5 other people, and then they work, like they give you feedback on the structure of your novel. I got support around putting together my synopsis and my query letter, and like, so if you're somebody who's really looking to learn a lot, like this was the kind of like learning experience that I can't say enough about. Like it was completely invaluable.
That's awesome.
And simultaneously, I applied for their residency and I got
Cool.
it. So the month of September, Tin House will be paying me to go back
Yeah, they
and live
will.
in Portland at this really adorable apartment, like right next to the Tin House.
That's so
And I just
great.
get to write for the month, and I'll have a public reading at some point in time. I'm not sure about the date yet of when the public reading will be, but I'll be reading an excerpt from my new unpublished novel.
That's so exciting. Okay. So for aspiring writers who are interested in maybe getting a little bit more structure, getting a little bit more support, it seems like the Google search terms are writers retreats,
Workshop.
writers residencies, writers workshops. And then since you've done some like you mentioned before, like if you want to DIY a residency, it's kind of just like it's like a vacation where you're not going out to see the sights. So is there anything besides like just renting a space that you don't have to do the dishes in that you recommend for a DIY residency? Like, is there any sort of prep work you should do?
Well, I mean, I think like, so if you're really at that place where you're like, I desperately need a residency, whether somebody's willing to give me one or not, usually you have like something that you're working on. So bring that thing that you're working on and then bring all of the things that would support that work. So for example, if I'm working on YA, I bring several different YA books that I'm also like reading while I'm crafting. I bring craft books like Save the Cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Save the Cat writes YA novel like that. It will really help you like clarify if you're a person who does outlines. Like they give you really good structure around a beat sheet.
Absolutely.
But also like Mindy Nettifee's Glitter in the Blood is one of my favorite craft books. And she's a narrative poet, but I feel like there's something about how lush her language is that is always inspirational when thinking through like how do I want to come across on the page.
I love that. I love that. Okay, bring your work, bring stuff that'll inspire you. Should you maybe bring one or two things that'll help you disconnect when you need a little break? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Just
what?
getting structure beforehand.
Yes. Okay, I love that. I love that.
So in the times when I've done this really in ways that I felt have been very successful, I've also done them with friends, but in a way where like we may or may not stay together, but we'll plan on like, okay, we're going to work during the day and then have an accountability check-in in the evening. So we'll have dinner together, then we'll like maybe do a reading for one another or like do a share back of, oh, here's where I got stuck today, or so there's still that kind of built-in camaraderie and support.
Yeah, and some social time. I love that. I love that. Okay. Yeah, this is so inspiring to me. One of the things I've been thinking about lately, just because like so many of my friends are having kids or just had kids, is just like, what are the ways that, is there a way that you could do sort of like a childcare swap with one of your other parent friends and, like to give each other a residency? I think something like that could be cool. Yeah. Or even like, could you do like a house swap with someone where, I don't know. I'm always just thinking about like, how do you make it as achievable as possible? How do you make it as affordable as possible?
Well, and for writers who are also parents, know that there are residencies out there for you. I was thinking specifically like for the mineral school, they have one that's specifically for parents.
That's so cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. That's awesome. Yeah. So maybe when you are searching online for your residencies, put in different things, or like if whatever your accessibility need is, include it in your searching. Or if you really want to be able to be part of a workshop where you're not the only queer voice, not the only Black voice, et cetera, et cetera. There are writing workshops that are specifically for different identities.
Also, sister cities is a thing.
Tell me more.
Seattle was recently designated a UNESCO World Heritage City for Literature, which means we are one of like 52 other sister cities around the world that also have this designation, and they've started having residency programs. So you can,
That's
if
cool.
you live in Seattle, you're eligible to go on residency in I want to say Korea or like...
it's all over the world.
Iceland, yeah. Like
yes.
there's like they're on rolling deadlines. So I'm trying to think of I think it was Seoul was the city.
What? That's amazing.
Reykjavik, Iceland, and there was another one that was like maybe it was Barcelona in Spain. Like it just was really cool.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay.
So
yeah. Yes. Well, I've actually stolen a lot of your time today, and the goal is for these to be bite-sized, and we're almost at an hour, so I might let you go. But yeah, I just want to say to our listeners that if you're not following Reagan Jackson on Instagram, you should be. If you have not signed up for her newsletter on her website, which is Reagan E J Jackson.com. Sign up for that newsletter. As Reagan mentioned, she has been working on a novel that I can't wait to read for a long time, and you're gonna want to know when you can pre-order it, when the brilliant people in the publishing world snatch it up and put it back out there into the world, and support the Rest and Relaxation Retreat. And yeah, just in general, there's a lot of wisdom to be gained from this woman that I'm grateful for every single day. And don't deprive yourself. Follow her, support her, make sure that she continues to be able to do the incredible work that she does.
Thanks, Maggie. It's been a pleasure.
Of course. It's always a pleasure with you. All right. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Reagan.
Bye.